Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it's going to be a bad day for journalists, especially in California. It seems like Google is not playing nice. They promised they were going to give local journalists all kinds of money. And apparently there was a backroom deal, and big tech upended the agreement meant to bolster local news. So I'm not shocked. I'm just telling you, they don't care.
Right. And I'm looking at the Vanity Fair headline, and it's what I've been telling you guys. It's like, if you kill the media, who's going to feed, how are they going to train their AI? And my next thing is, I keep telling you, why is this not up in front of Congress? Because we're talking like not just in California, across the country.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this, because there's a lot to unpack when it comes to why all of these websites are dying, why all these journalists, I think, are getting very angry about podcasters and YouTubers. And it has a lot to do with Google. I mean, it is. Google basically decided to change their search algorithm. And we've done multiple videos about this. And this is why all these websites are shutting down all of a sudden, because their traffic has been turned off.
Yes.
And advertisers aren't spending money on these websites because nobody's visiting these websites.
Well, not just that. I think that Google's keeping the lion's share of the money with their AI. And I think advertisers are moving more to video.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Yeah, woohoo if you do. Woohoo. So Google, a couple months ago, they rolled out their AI snippets, which they basically give you a Cliff Notes version of a story. And a lot of people, if they're just looking for an overview, or they're looking for a certain piece of information, they're not even going to click out to the website.
No, you don't need to.
And Google's got ads all over that search result page. So they're keeping all the money. They don't have to share with the publishers. So now there was a talk that they were going to cut a deal, I guess. California newsrooms were going to cut a deal with Google, and Google was going to invest a bunch of money, which we covered that too. But now it looks like Google's not giving them very much money, and they're cutting some backroom deals.
Oh, shocker.
Oh my God, guys.
We know that Google was making deals with different publishers and Reddit to use their content to train their AI. And those people are going to get boosted because they're using them, and they're they're allowing them to use them to work with them for their AI.
Yeah. And yeah, again, a lot of these sites they're going to play ball, and they have nothing to lose. You have like Time Magazine, the New York Times, we've been covering all these layoffs. They have nothing to lose. They know if they don't play ball with Google, they're not going to have anything. A bird in the hand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking at. They're like, hey, we either sell our souls to Google now, or they just
take our stuff anyway. Yeah.
Take our stuff anyway, step over us, find somebody else to deal with.
This is why I keep saying that I don't understand why we've had other companies brought up before, a hearing for less. This is a massive hit to a huge industry, taking out hundreds of thousands of blogs and stuff, news sites and stuff. And they're just sitting there not doing anything about it.
Yeah. And look, in some cases, some of these websites were never sustainable. They were bankrolled by private equity firms. They were bankrolled by the government in some cases. And a lot of them, they never gained the readership they needed to gain, but they were kind of propped up with, monopoly money. But I
want to point out, other countries do have it blocked. Like, they aren't allowed to do this in other countries. This is mostly a U.S. thing.
So let's talk about how Google screwed over journalists. This is coming from CBS News. Google will soon give California millions of dollars to help pay for local journalism jobs in a first-in-the-nation deal.
Right, because they do it for them, they'd have to do it for everybody else.
That's right, and California complains the loudest, right? But journalists and other media experts call it disappointing. The agreement was hashed out behind closed doors. It's going to direct tens of millions of public and private dollars to keep local news organizations afloat.
To what end, though? I don't think tax money should be, private. So it's venture capital, probably. Yeah. But I'm saying, I'm just like, why should, and the flip side is, on Google's stand, why should they have to pay for your newsrooms to stay open? Here's an idea, just put it back to the way it was so people can get found, and then they won't have to. You know what I mean?
Well, here's what's actually going on. Critics say it's a textbook political maneuver by tech giants to avoid a fee under what could have been a groundbreaking legislation. California lawmakers agreed to kill a bill requiring tech to support news outlets they profit from in exchange for Google's financial commitment.
If they profit from, yes, then they should have to pay, yes.
So it's extortion, basically. You're gonna pay less if you just give us, tens of millions of dollars now, which is nothing to Google. I mean, I
know, but that is a kind of, it's California, but they're desperate.
That's so California. By shelving the bill, the state effectively gives up on an avenue that could have required Google and social media platforms to make an ongoing payment to publishers for linking to their news content, said Victor Pickard. Oh my God.
There's our Pickard. Where's
It's
Vivi?
Victor Pickard. Where's our dog? He loves Captain Pickard.
It's Picard, but you call him Pickard.
Professor of Media Policy and Political Economy at the University of Pennsylvania. Oh my God, the dog's going to run away and go hang out with Pickard. California also left behind a much bigger amount of funding that could have been secured under the legislation. Google got off easy. Google said the deal's going to help journos and AI.
Here's the thing.
It's going to help AI.
The way it's worded, though, originally, I have concerns about that, too, because people would react to videos and crap. Could they have technically argued that you had to pay them to react to a video?
Yeah.
So I can see where that would have been a whole can of worms on that one. But I don't understand. And I don't believe Google should have to pay newsrooms to stay open. I mean, I don't believe that either. However, I do believe that Google should make sure that your site's being seen, that traffic that's looking for what you have to offer and, should go to you and not their AI snippet and they get to keep everything. Yeah,
but then weirdly enough, Google basically plays with itself anyway, because most of the publishers are using Google ads.
That's just it. They get the money.
They're
getting money from that anyway. So yeah, exactly.
But they get to keep all of it with the snippet. You know what I'm saying? They have to split it with the publisher.
But again, like I pointed out, and Vanity Fair pointed out, eventually, unless these people are working with you, you're not going to be able to have anything to generate your AI from anymore.
Yeah,
your AI snippets from.
Now, I'm torn on this one because I do believe that AI is hastening the inevitable.
But it is inevitable.
It's inevitable. I mean, this is like asking Ford Motor Company to, keep the people that work on, horse buggy industry, keep them employed, right? Like, why? Because there's no reason for
if they're using their horses and buggies, though, then yes. But if they're not,
You're calling it horsepower. That's our term. Yes. Every time you sell a car, we get $50.
That would be California back then. Anyway.
Yeah, right. The LA Times was losing up to $40 million a year.
I believe it.
The newspaper's owner said, and justifying a bunch of layoffs, which there have been a ton of layoffs. A lot of websites getting sold for next to nothing because, again, they live and die by advertising. A lot of them are trying to pivot to paywalled content. It's actually kind of annoying. Like every time you go to a website now, they're like, hey, you can subscribe. It's like, how do you not realize what kind of economy we're in right now? Do you really think that everybody's going to subscribe to your website now that's been pumping out, and in a lot of cases, a lot of fake news for a decade plus, and it's been free? The
other thing is that they're like demanding you disable your ad blocker to go on their site to read anything. And I think that's funny that Google's demanding people disable their ad blocker when they're pulling this kind of shit. I mean, right? I don't know. I just find that highly ironic.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're talking about newspapers closing down. This is like, I saw this. I used to work for a newspaper, multiple newspapers, actually. And I saw this, 20 years ago. I'm like, it's over. Like, it's time to go digital or whatever. Now those people that were gloating about newspapers going out of business, now they're facing the same issues. Actually, it's worse for them because at least with newspapers, you still have subscribers, you still have direct ad sales. People are paying for classified ads and are paying for display ads. With a website, it's like, unless people are kicking you a few bucks in Patreon or something.
Look, they're just focusing on these news outlets. The website situation is far worse. But this is interesting. So the deal they were going to make with California, so it was only one state getting this deal, not even everyone, all the other states that have, newspapers and such. It was going to be $250 million that provide money to two efforts. Okay, get this. Funding for journalism initiatives and a new AI research program.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you have to split the money between paying your journalists and also agreeing to their AI research program where they can use you probably to train there.
I'm sure.
And it's only for 5 years. So what would happen would be the news outlets would get the deal and hurry up and sell the outlet.
Yeah. 110 million coming from Google, 70 million coming from Berkeley.
Oh, it is the state budget.
Yeah, state budget.
So it's literally tax funded.
Yep, to boost journalism jobs. It's going to be managed by UC Berkeley's Grad School of Journalism.
There's going to be no biases there.
Absolutely, yeah. Google's going to kick in 70 million, which is nothing to Google.
To fund the AI research program. What is the AI research program? Build tools to help solve real world problems. Okay, what's that mean?
It means that you're not going to be able to sell your grad school to people anymore because nobody's going to go into the journalism industry because there won't be a journalism industry.
But I'm just saying, because Google's going to be giving 70 million for an AI research program. I'm like, they're basically just telling you straight up, we're giving this to you for 5 years while we build our AI to put you out of business, is what they're saying.
So the deal's not a tax.
Okay, but where are they getting the money from?
Yeah, right. So yeah, the initial bill was, and then I remember we covered this, the link tax. They wanted a link tax. Every time you'd link to an article or Google would link to an article, they had to get. So yeah, for them, it's a better deal. I mean, for them, again, $70 million is nothing. And this is only a 5-year deal, like you're saying. So this basically just buys time.
Okay, but wait. But they're saying it's not a tax, but they're saying they're using the state budget to pay for it, which would imply they're taking tax money somewhere.
They're not taxing Google per se.
Okay.
They're basically threatening to tax Google unless Google gives them money to pay for journalism school and to pay for the newsrooms to stay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really torn on this because I absolutely positively believe that Google has tossed a hand grenade into the journalism ecosystem, but I'm also like, everybody put their eggs into Google's basket, and they're the ones who pivoted to this online freemium model. And then Google could take that away at any point in time.
Well, you had to. You were forced to pivot to that because that's what everybody does.
We need another search engine, a viable search engine. Or
the bill was modeled after a policy passed in Canada. It was interesting. That requires Google to pay $74 million per year to fund journalism. However, Canada is a whole country, and they're paying $74 million per year. But California is one state, and they're paying $110 million.
Well, don't you know California is the most important state?
Well, according to California.
According to California.
According to me, California could go be its own country at this point, and I would not give two shits.
Google is not going to play ball with everybody, though, because they're going to want to do this in every state, almost every state. Any blue state is going to want to do this. And they're going to be like, yeah, we can't dole out $70 million, $100 million to New York and to Pennsylvania and to, Washington and Oregon, whoever else wants it. It's not going to happen.
No. And then they're saying that tech companies have been fighting the bill, and so she wanted to put it through. But she said that they saw no path forward, and the funding secured through the deal was better than nothing. And then they said Google cannot, they're talking about how Google has done this across the world to avoid regulations. I know some countries, they don't let them get away with this crap.
Yeah.
Google cannot exit from news because they need it, said this person from Colombia. So what they're doing is using a whole lot of different tactics to kill bills that require them to compensate publishers fairly. So basically what they want to use your stuff and not compensate you. Which, look, I get it. Like people do all the time. They use sources for articles and stuff, and they just source that they link to the source. They don't have to compensate. And I think this would be a concerning thing because everybody would demand compensation for using their stuff. But the difference is Google is the search engine. So Google is just literally taking your stuff but then not letting your site be found.
Yeah,
it's a huge problem. It's a huge conflict of interest.
Well, I want to say we gave Google this power. We, the people, these publishers, gave Google this power. Because again, 25 years ago, we had multiple search engines. Google became the default, and then everybody built their sites on that business model. You have to be found by Google. You have to monetize with Google ads. Everything was about Google, Google, Google. And then one day they decide, you know what? We don't need you anymore.
Well, it's interesting too. They said that this agreement results in a much smaller amount of funding compared to what Google gives the newsrooms in Canada. Again, Canada is an entire fucking country. But California is one state. I mean, come on. You can't be this stupid.
The unions were locked out of it. I think that's kind of interesting, too. They wouldn't let them talk. Others question why the deal included funding to build new AI tools.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm questioning.
Because this is a transition period. This is not a permanent. This is a 5-year agreement. This is basically get used to the fact that you're all going to be fucking unemployed Get used to it.
No, this is basically, I'm giving the people, the rich owners, time to sell it off because they've got 5 years so that this money's going to be going through. And then we're telling you right now, we're replacing you with AI. So you have 5 years to get out. Is what they're doing.
Yeah. So you want to talk about that. We can talk about that briefly. We've seen more websites and magazines and news outlets sold in the last like 2 or 3 years than I can remember in the last decade or two, and at fire sale prices. And this is exactly,
you can't make any money at it.
They can't make any money.
I don't know why anybody's buying them at all, honestly.
Well, I think they're trying to get in, get out, and what they're probably doing in the case of like Time Magazine or something is like, hey, we'll just sell you 100 years of Time or however long Time Magazine's been around. You know, we'll sell you like the entire history, the entire back catalog of Time Magazine, Google, and you can do with it whatever you want for X millions of dollars because there's no future. So there's no future in it. So what they can do is sell the past, right? And train the AI to write better, more authentic
Right, but I'm saying
articles.
They're trying to sell it to other people are buying it not for AI purposes, just to try to buy it. And I'm like, I wouldn't recommend that right now. No,
and I think after this year, I think there's going to be a boost with, and we talked about that with Jezebel, right? Jezebel was sold, and they shut it down originally. Then somebody else bought it, but they said they wanted to bring it back as a political site. And I'm like, after this election, any site that's depending on political money from Google, like you're not going to get it. It's pointless.
Again,
it's pump and dump.
Again, why is this not being called out? But I guarantee you, Google is probably likely paying a lot of money to make sure that it isn't brought up into a hearing, because it's a very concerning thing because we're taking out a whole industry, and we've seen people get called up for far, far less. And they're not even being called in. Like, can you explain why you're putting out tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of websites, news sites, blogs? Because you deliberately are trying to change how things are pushed through so they aren't getting found like they should. And then you're making deals with other places to make sure they're top of the listings, or as long as you scrape for AI. I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you.
Look, if you're working as a digital journalist, especially if you're working as a video game journalist or an entertainment journalist or something, which is not really necessary, please keep your resume updated. That's not me being smarmy.
No, we're getting hurt for this whole thing too.
Yeah.
I had a blog I've had for years, and I had it really built up, and it's gone down significantly.
It was basically
because of all this.
Yeah, it was basically at one point it was easily a full-time job, and then it's like pennies on the whole thing's imploding. Like, so, there's a lot of people out there screaming, blaming YouTubers, blaming podcasters. Don't blame them. Blame Google. This is their fault, that they've changed everything. But it's also our fault because we put all of our eggs into that basket.
Yeah, it is. And I guess I'm sure things are being done to retain power.
Yeah.
And, the little people, unless they join together, can't really do much about it. And it is what it is. But you're right. We gave them the power to do it. So
yeah,
what can we say? But I think this whole AI thing, I hope it stops soon because it's not working. It honestly, at this point, the money they've spent on this, you could have hired people way cheaper. You're doing this because you're trying to find this AI route forward, and you're spending billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. You could have just paid people for far less.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Look at what's happening with
it still doesn't even work.
Self-checkout, right? We had this whole phase where we're getting rid of cashiers. We have self-checkout. Now they're going back and hiring cashiers because, oh my God, people are stealing shit every day.
Shocker.
What? People aren't honest? Oh my God, imagine that. But
so hopefully they'll get over this AI kick, but they're wasting billions of dollars and they aren't really getting ahead of anything.
Yeah, and a lot of journalists are going to be out of work, but frankly, there are way too many digital media outlets out there anyway, and most of them were not sustainable. So we're going to right size, right? We're going to right size everything. Are we going to wrap this up?
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.